Hello and welcome to Arts 24. Those images you saw there were by Khalif Tahir Thompson, American painter, printmaker, and papermaker. And it's a pleasure to have him on set with us today. Hi, Khalif.
Hello. It's a pleasure. My pleasure.
Now, you have a new exhibition at the Zidoun-Bossuyt Gallery here in Paris. It's called Beautiful Land, and it's your second solo exhibition at the gallery. How do you feel? Are you less nervous the second time around?
Definitely less nervous, just as anxious, but very excited and even more assured in this project. I mean, this was a really, a passionate theme that I've been, mowing over for the past year or two. So very excited to finally have it debut, this time around.
Well, then let's take a look at Beautiful Land. Take a look now. So Beautiful Land is above all about self-identity and representation, and it's very intimate. We can see there that you've chosen family members and friends in some of the portraits displayed. You use also a lot of different materials like chalk and foil and wax to add these textured details. Why this decision to use your family and friends for this exhibition?
Well, I think it was a natural kind of inclination. I I really admire a lot of my favorite, especially Black American figurative artists that use family and the family image as a way to have accessible imagery that a lot of people can connect with, because everyone has maybe a sibling, a mother, a grandmother, and something, a sentiment attached to that. So I thought it was a very good vehicle to play around with imagery, my own personal history, and I just had a real attraction towards that kind of votive or honorific portraiture that kind of honors but also opens up and tells stories that people can connect with or find very relatable.
Now, for those with keen eyes, you might have seen there that your artworks always have seemingly random floating numbers and letters. Can you tell us why?
Yeah, they're kind of internal signifiers. I've had that question a lot, and a lot of the time I always say it's pretty much, an abstract, formal element that kind of assists, the compositions and the spaces in the interiors and sometimes exteriors, and they kind of create a fantastical element in the work, and it's kind of meant to denote a bit of imaginativeness and wonder.
And it draws your attention momentarily away from the subjects.
Correct, yeah. And so it's kind of it's kind of strategic in that way, where it kind of you take the image less for granted by trying to decode some of the things that you don't understand.
Tell us about the inspiration for one of them. It's called the Sun Room.
Mm-hmm.
I really love that one, but it's not of your family members, is it?
Well, I mean, Sunroom was pretty much, even though the image was inspired by something out of my grandmother's photo albums, they all appeared in these dresses, and it seemed like it was a dance class of some sort. And I kind of wanted to do something that was almost angelic or that emitted a certain type of light. I was very much inspired by Beaufort Delaney and using that yellow and just using very bright, emanating light, colors that kind of made them look like almost like cherubs or some type of angelic figures, and you get to see all their expressions, and it was, one of my favorite works in the show. Yeah.
Now, let's take a look at what Audrey Bossuyt, she's a gallery director, said about the two movements that influenced this exhibition. Take a look.
Cette exposition-ci a
This exhibition was made to pay tribute to Fauvism, and more specifically to the artist called Derain.
Au fauvisme, et en particulier à l'artiste Derain. Donc, dans le tableau
Just behind me,
moi,
you have this painting of a beautiful woman in red.
Qui est sa maman.
And in
Ce
fact,
sont
she's
souvent
his
des
mother.
personnages de sa famille
He often painted people from his own
il y a
family,
des très beaux
but in the
tableaux,
background
des
you have a
scènes de
beautiful
paysages de
landscape
Collioure
of the
de
port
Reims
city
qui
of
se retrouvent dans le
Collioure.
tableau. Donc, il
So
avait
you really
vraiment
see he
envie
wanted to be influenced by great French
d'être
painters for his
influencé
exhibition in
par le grand
Paris.
peintre français pour sa présence à Paris. Il est également
He was also
influencé
very
par ce qu'on appelle
inspired by the Harlem Renaissance
Donc, il y a un
movement
chatoiement
with all
de
these different
couleurs,
colors and tributes to different
hommages à
painters.
différents peintres dans
In all the
tous les tableaux
paintings
que
you
vous
can see
trouverez
here.
à la galerie pour cette exposition.
So Fauvism was a short-lived art movement that began around 1905 and originated here in France. It favors strong colors over the realism of the preceding Impressionist movement. Why Fauvism for you? Why did that inspire you so much?
Well, I actually saw a Fauvis show at the Met in New York, actually, and it was with Matisse and Derain prominently. And those works, I was already a fan of Beaufort Delaney, who's a prominent artist of the Harlem Renaissance. They're after that movement. And I kind of just drew a connection with the palette and the color and the expression and the boldness. And it's something that I already did in my work. And so I was very attracted to that. And I thought there was a great vehicle to kind of merge these different narratives and these different movements and kind of recontextualize them today with my own personal history. So I was really, really excited about that. Just the movement itself and the German expressionist and what was happening in these different parts of the world around the same time and how these artists were using color and brushstroke and, just formalism and portraiture and figuration to kind of, talk about, stories, but also bring out this otherworldly spiritual aspect. And so I really enjoyed that.
So the Harlem Renaissance was an artistic uprising of African Americans in the early 20th century. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
It was a huge movement of expression, and for Black artists, in particular Black American artists, to really, innovate and, step out in the Western context where there wasn't many stories being told from Black artists and from Black experience.
So I wonder, how do you identify yourself? An African-American painter or just a painter? How do you identify yourself?
Well, I would say that I'm definitely a Black American painter. I'm from New York, born and raised, from Brooklyn, New York. And I very much, I'm now looking more into that and how it's shaped me and my interest and my style. And so I definitely identify as a Black American. And that goes with the diaspora as well, just from the continent, in Africa. And so that's why a lot of the works in this show also reference a lot of African textiles and different patterning and things like that, because that's very much what I grew up with as well, as a Black American, African American. And, my mom's household, we had lots of patterns and different sculptures and things like that. That was common in the household.
Do you think the representation of Black artists in galleries and museums around the world is changing?
I think it's definitely growing. I mean, I think there's so many prominent artists that are doing a really great job of, bringing more of our stories to the forefront. And it's a long, long list. And I think that, it's expanding and there's many more facets that are being added to that conversation. And I'm just happy to be a part of that.
Khalif, you're only 30 years old, but you've already achieved so much. A Master of Fine Arts degree from Yale. You were at the prestigious LaGuardia High School of Music and Art, multiple fellowships, lots of exhibitions around the world. Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first painting you ever did?
Yes, I do.
Was it a moment where you said, this is what I want to do with my life?
Yes, it kind of coincided with, I was given an assignment. I went to LaGuardia. I was at LaGuardia. I primarily drew. I never thought to pick up a paintbrush. I didn't really take with acrylic, but oil, there was something about, I did a portrait of Amy Winehouse, which was
cool.
One of my favorites. She had just passed around that time. So I thought I did something honorific. So again, with the honoring, and I thought paintings was for honoring dead people originally. So I was like, obviously I was like, yeah, I'll just, do a portrait of Amy Winehouse. And I just kind of opened up the door of this type of expression where I really obviously enjoyed the portrait and I enjoyed the gaze and the expression and how you can do that with paint. And so it kind of just became a relationship with the medium from that point.
Now, you lost your father at quite a young age. How did that influence the artist you became?
Definitely, yes. My father passed in 2007 from colon cancer, and I was around, it was a week before my 12th birthday. So I was very young, and, when you deal with death at that young age, you kind of like are confronted with, not just the loss, but just kind of like this idea of life and death and how fast it is. But it kind of motivated me. My father always really admired creativity, and he really encouraged my creativity. And he was very proud of, even at that age, he thought I was going to be, doing a lot artistically. He saw talent in me. And that kind of motivated me to really dig deeper and apply to LaGuardia and apply myself, and to really go for it and go for your dreams. I would say it definitely affected me greatly.
Well, here on the program, we ask our guests for their cultural recommendation of the moment. Khalif, you've chosen an exhibition that's on at Paris right now. It's called Henry Taylor's Where Thoughts Provoke. Have you seen it?
Yes, I did see it. I saw it the other day. Museum of Picasso. I mean, Henry Taylor is just one of those prominent artists that I've always been a fan of. And I remember first seeing his work at the Whitney Biennial and just being blown away. He very much also works within, portraiture and figuration. And it's just, unlimited with his approach and what he likes to cite, and his spontaneity and his, creativity is just knows no bounds. And this show really exemplifies a lot of what makes him so great. And it's amazing that's in Paris along with my show in the same city.
Well, it's as full of color as your work is. Thank you so much for joining us here on Arts 24. Let's leave you with Where Thoughts Provoke by Henry Taylor. It's on at Paris's Musée Picasso. It runs until September 8th. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. You can check out all of our culture news on France24.com. See you next time.